So in the last couple of videos, I've been talking about representing physical phenomena and how you can use modeling, whether it's a physical or mind's eye, mind experiment model. You can use words, pictures, data and number, formulas with computations, and graphs to represent your information. Now, how does that look like in an actual class? Well, if you go to the lab report writing folder that I mentioned in another video, you will see that we use these concepts in lab reports and abbreviated presentations and poster presentations in our class. Abbreviated presentations are usually done with the assistance of whiteboards. And so you're going to try to fit as much of that as you can in a whiteboard. And that means that most of the words part is going to be separate from the whiteboard, and you're going to make the whiteboard primarily to represent with pictures, the visual part, and graphs and data. So the whiteboard should be able to be easily read by all people around the room, and the speaker should clearly identify the problem and label a diagram of the situation, have graphs and numbers and with tables with appropriate units, and explain then with words what it was done, how it was done, why the model done was chosen, and should be able to provide intelligent responses to questions posed by the class or the teacher, and to concisely summarize the results of the group, and also include, if necessary, mathematical expressions and how they were derived by the students. And so basically, you're trying to do in as many and quickly as possible as many of these things as you can in the whiteboard, right? So usually you're going to put the words outside of it, but you are trying to make the person develop in their mind a mind's eye visual of the or a model in their mind of your experiment, which means adding pictures, tables, computations, and a good graph to your whiteboard should be necessary. All right. Now, you can also do this in a more thorough format in a lab report or a poster board presentation. For that, this podcast folder here or the document folder will break down in more detail how you should do that. There's even a sample there, a set of explanations that explains. So this is a sample right here that I have for the lab report. It breaks down an example of lab report in biology. There is also a physics lab report sample that actually has notes on the side that explain comments on the side that explain how each part of the lab report fulfills each part of the rubric. So it's a great tool to use in class as well. There's also a sample of a data analysis sheet on a Excel spreadsheet that actually is used to compute statistics and things like that. And you can actually take a look at that. It's open for you to look at and see the formulas that I've used in everything. There's also a lab report explanation that breaks down each part of the lab report and how that ties in with the scientific method, which is what I used in the podcast presentation. There is a rubric that I sometimes use to give students feedback with objectives for investigative writing. And the rubric breaks down essentially what is necessary from each stage of the experiment. And there is a lab report guideline document which actually breaks down what should be included in order to fulfill the representations of the physical phenomena in each spot. And these numbers of each thing will be used as feedback during lab report submissions. If you get the lab report back and you have a number 11 on it, that means you did not provide sufficient prior knowledge, research on the prior knowledge on the independent variable, for example. So you see, and each category also has a brief description of what should be included on that section. Now, the only difference between a lab report and a poster presentation is that you place the lab report on the poster and make it more visual oriented. All right, but that's essentially what it is. But the poster board presentation is not so much the whiteboard. It's a large presentation that you would use for a science fair. And I have information about that in my class how-tos as well. If you go to the class procedures folder, and you go to, there's a folder right there called Science Fair Resources. And in there, there's instructions on how to create that poster board presentation and how you judge doing a science fair And we will do that at least once or twice a year. And hopefully you will have fun with that. But the point of this is to explain that in order to correctly represent physical phenomena, you must include as many of these things as possible. Those other documents are only helping you get that done.